Excuse me, ma'am.
Okay, is everyone here from group 13?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, we can start.
Okay, ma'am. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, ma'am, we are starting.
Yes, can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are here for a presentation. But before all, we would like to express a special thanks of gratitude to our teacher, Dr. Pallavi Kiran, who gave us this golden opportunity to do this wonderful project on the topic Deprived Class versus Rich Class Perspective Towards India, which also helped us in doing a lot of research and we came to know about so many new things. Secondly, we would also like to thank our group members who helped us to finalize this project. Now, India is a diverse country where every 100 kilometer we see change in culture, language, and class of living. One of the most important aspects that we are going to discuss here is classification of people based upon their wealth, which results in their way of living life. The two main categories of this classification being the rich class and the other, the deprived class or economically weaker section of society. Rich class, as the name says, consists of people having wealth and resources which makes their life certain. The deprived class, on the other hand, does not have much wealth and resources to lead a happy life and their life is kind of uncertain. According to Indian Human Development Survey, about 47.9% of people are deprived from food, shelter, water, sanitation, health, and education. This results them in having different perspective towards India, which we will discuss here briefly. Now over to Shubham.
Thanks, Chavi. Not every person living in poverty are hungry. Not every person living in poverty are hungry, but almost all hungry people are living in poverty. With these views, a very warm and charming good afternoon to one and all present here. As one of my friend, Chavi stated that approx 47% of Indian are deprived from food, water and shelter. So this is Subham with his views that how deprived class face hunger problem. As all of you know that food is the one of the basic necessities for life. But in India, some of the classes don't get their two times meal. India is an agriculture based country. After that, approx 7,000 Indians died due to the shortage of food. Food is the one of the cause of depression for them. They have to thought about their meal, which is a very shameful for India. Many daily wages laborers died due to shortage of food. They don't only die due to the shortage of food, they also die due to the depression. They commit suicide. Due to less amount of food, they suffered from malnutrition. Pregnant women uh, don't get appropriate meal and foods which affect their babies. Therefore, they are compelled to eat contaminated food as well as drink contaminated water. They suffer from diarrhea and many diseases. As I mentioned above, according to ICMR, approx 7,000 Indians lost their job due to hunger and contaminated food and drinking of contaminated water. Government runs various programs such as Antoday Yojana and free ration program to control hunger problem. But due to lack of knowledge and awareness, they can't avail benefit of these types of program. Film City had made so much film for deprived class like Roti, Kapra and Makan, but unfortunate we couldn't aware them yet. This data can be low if they have a good medical system, but unfortunate they couldn't get. So I would like to request my friend Divesh that he will discuss the problem faced by deprived due to the weak medical system.
Thanks, Shubham. As we all know, that health is one of the major factors that is responsible for an individual to live a contented life. As we have talked above about the circumstances that the deprived people face, health is also a matter of concern for the deprived people out in the society. First, we are going to talk about not getting proper medical aid. Of all the classes, deprived people face most of the problems. Like they are not economically strong, that they cannot afford expensive medical health, and being economically weak, they are not able to afford their treatment in private hospitals. Doctors have been appointed, but they visit the hospital very often, lacking medical equipments, beds, etc. At this time of pandemic, deprived people had faced the worst conditions as they were dying because of not getting oxygen supply and proper COVID preventive measures. Secondly, we are going to discuss about the diseases they suffer from. Overcrowding and poor living conditions can contribute to the spread of airborne conditions similar to tuberculosis and respiratory infections similar to pneumonia. They expect the government to maintain proper hygiene and cleanliness around them. There are some of the medical programs run by the government. Ayushman Bharat, Awaz Health Insurance Scheme, Aam Aadmi Bima Yojana, Central Government Health Scheme, and at last Chief Minister's Comprehensive Insurance Scheme. I would like to call back Shubham to discuss on education.
Thank Vives. As I discussed in previous slide, that a deprived class don't avail resources due to the lack of knowledge and education. Education is a tool through which we can eradicate poverty from our society. Unfortunate, they can't access good education. They don't have proper uniform as well as book, school, etc. Government runs so many programs for empowering education, such as free education, midday meal, with the slogan Shabidyaya Bimuktaye. But they sent their kid on working site in spite of school, which is the main factor of increment in child labor, which affect their health. Now, due to the pandemic, most of the classes shifted to online, for they don't have modern equipment and huge network system for doing online classes, which leads to begging, and begging is an officially crime. With these views, I invite again my friend Vives to discuss the problem of deprived class faced in COVID-19 pandemic.
So, moving on next, we will be talking about the consequences that rich people and the deprived people faced during the pandemic. First, financial crisis. Rich people had also faced financial problems during this pandemic, but the deprived people have just been broken down. Thousands of people from the deprived class had lost their employment during this period of time. Second, education. Education is the most important constituent for a well-developed nation. Despite of this, the pandemic has changed the complete scenario. Students who are deprived of modern facilities are facing problems like they do not have smartphones, stable internet connection to take online classes. They expect to get capable devices and a free, stable internet connection to attend online classes. So next, handing over the presentation to Harshit.
Thanks, Vives. Good morning. As our friend Subham and Vives stated, what problems deprived class people has to suffer from. They lack money, hardly have food for 2 times. The main problem is that they have no job or their income is too low and they have to feed many. They have very less access to medical facilities and even many do not know how to use their medical facilities given by the government due to lack of knowledge. Due to these problems, many people has to suffer and die. When they will be given right education and taught how to use their facilities given by government to them, their living conditions will get much better. Many companies are replacing works done by humans with machines, which will make many of them lose their job and more will come under deprived class category. When the rich are having excess money, they should invest it in better place, helping people. Hereby completing the deprived class, we next move to the rich class, who have access wealth and resources which make their life contented. Money give them opportunity to do what they want. They work hard during their working hours and utilize their money in leisure time. They have high status in the society and they play a dominating role in the society. They send their kids to best school and top universities and provide them top facilities. With this view, our friend Aryan is going to state the advantage and disadvantage of rich class. I hand over to Aryan.
Thanks, Harshit. So, good afternoon to one and all present here. As stated by my friend Harshit about the rich class, I would like to extend his views by explaining the advantages and disadvantages of rich class people. See, friends, I don't want to take much time of yours, but you all know now that in these 4 years we can do anything to get marks. Like literally anything. Jokes apart, let's begin our presentation. I would like to talk about how rich class people assess their resources. They have high ambition and see India as a resourceful place. They have good standard of living and don't have any shortage of food, shelter and medical facilities. All the coins have two sides. Similarly, rich people also have the same. Approx 54% of GDP is fulfilled by business and service sector. Most of them are philanthropists like Ratan Tata, Anand Mahindra and many more. Their earnings are considerably more which help them to lead a happy life. We see the rich people have high-end job and multiple business which lead to ecological imbalance. Rich class people also define the very own standards of society upon which we tend to follow and try hard to prove ourselves worthy. For example, if we see a certain trend in rich class people, we tend to match the same. It's like wearing Gucci or Rolex watches will make us think that actually wearing them will change our uncertainty, which in reality is totally absurd. As I have stated earlier about the two sides of a coin, so rich people also face some problems. Industrialization and urbanization are main causes of exploitation of resources. We think that if they have money, then they don't have to face any kind of problems. But it is not like that. They have to pay high amount of taxes. Some of them got high loss in business and some of them get killed in business rights. The level of competition in the market for rich class is very high. They have to face their competitor. One of the major challenge of rich class people is that their wealth can overshadow their other characteristics. People usually focus on their wealth than on other traits, and wealth tends to become their most defining characteristic. For example, Walt Disney Company, Abigail Disney, co-founder of the company, shared her experience. She said that people do say to me, "Oh my god, you must be really rich." Apart from being rich, she must have some other traits, but wealth has overshadowed her characteristics. So at last, see, my friends, I haven't taken much of your time, I guess. I would like to hand over our presentation to one of our teammate Neil to observe comparison between both the classes. Neil, please.
Thanks, Vivesh. I, Neil Jain, would like to bring out a comparison in the perspectives of the rich class and the deprived class in some of the important aspects and discuss them briefly here. The rich class of people earning considerable amount of money to lead a happy life thinks of making their life easier, happier, and more happening, so they look forward to India for having more opportunities to do so. The deprived class, on the other hand, thinks of surviving the next day without having any greater problems which they can't afford to fight with. When the rich class people sit to decide the next restaurant they're going to visit, the deprived class people struggle to have the basic two-time meal for the day. So they expect from India to provide a solution for this problem. We see the rich people having high-end jobs or multiple businesses to earn. For them, India is a country full of resources. The deprived class don't even have a stable job, or if they have one, it's not so effective. They expect from India more employment and job facilities which are effective for the amount of work done by them. Today, we have so many things and facilities around us to enjoy, like theaters, malls, restaurants, parks, tourist places, and many more. But again, these enjoyments come into consideration when one has money to avail them. Deprived people struggle even to carry out their day-to-day expenses. For them, these honey-rich enjoyable things don't even count, like it don't even exist for them at all. They only dream of having those enjoyments at least once in their life. Talking about the rich, they just go on trying new things without any worry. We can sense the drastic difference in the thinking and actions of both the classes. During holidays,
Rich class people plans to visit new places. They expect more and more such amazing places and spots to visit, while the deprived people still thinks of utilizing the holiday period to earn more. Talking about education, the rich kids are provided the best of the best education. They are sent to top class schools and colleges. They aspire to achieve success and to serve the country India. While in the other case, the poor kid struggle even to have the basic education to survive. They expect more high level studies to be provided to them from India and facilities to avail them. Till now, we have seen the rich class having an upper hand in many aspects and the deprived class struggling. I would like to highlight some more aspects where the scenario is something else. Let's see them. A common perspective of all people is that if a student is really capable, intelligent, talented, and hardworking, then he shouldn't be hindered from getting admitted to top colleges by any economic or social factors. The socially deprived class consists mostly of ST, OBC, EWS category people. 60% of seats in a government college is reserved for such a category student, and only 40% seats is available for the general category student who mostly belong to the rich class. The problem of the reservation system is that even if a reserved category student is not so good in academics, then also he gets admitted in top colleges. If this continues to go on, then the truly talented student who are meant to be in one of those top colleges may not get admitted there, and they won't be able to serve India in the future by their true potential, and then we will be still lagging behind becoming a developed country. It's not that the reservation system should be totally collapsed, but it is necessary for us to provide admissions in top colleges to students who are true merit holders, irrespective of his category, caste, and creed, because only then India will achieve success. According to the perspective of the rich class students and their parents, they expect India to overcome from the reservation system in education so that their ward can get admission based upon their true merit. The other aspect in this particular course is on the tax system. The rich class businessmen, industrialists, office people, and employees are levied by heavy taxes for which they themselves do not get much in return from the government as they belong to the rich class. The deprived class people get many facilities and grants for their living from the government, such as ration, grants in government jobs, less fees for education, etc., in addition to the fact that they are free from such heavy taxes. The rich class expects a solution to this problem as this is somewhere not right of feeding the poor people free of cost in spite of not doing any work and just sitting idle in assurance that the government is taking care of them from the taxes paid by the rich class people. Having said much about main money related issues, I would like to highlight the perspective of both the classes towards India on the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw that when the pandemic hit us, the deprived people were completely broken down as they lost their jobs. Also, most of them ended up starving and then suffered to death from the disease as the whole country was locked down and they didn't have so much savings to overcome the expensive medical facilities. Even the rich class, having much savings, felt helpless in many situations due to the lack of good medical facilities in the country. Both the classes as a whole expects India to grow strong in terms of medical facilities. The education shifted to online platform. Poor students were unable to study online because lack of devices. The rich students having devices also struggle to study due to the unstable internet connectivity. The office people, both rich and deprived, also struggle to work from home. Both classes expect from India to become more advanced and reliable in the technical and digital fields. People say that the rich class people spends lavishly and make their life easier by using their money power and strength. But why not? We only see the success, but we don't recognize the great amount of hard work, sacrifices, and precious time they have invested to achieve their position and potential. Most of the deprived class people are deprived maybe because they didn't really work hard and utilize the opportunities when they were given to them. It can be that a rich person was once deprived, but he worked upon his condition and now he is rich. And maybe a deprived person was once rich but then became deprived by his own bad habits. All these points, aspects, and perspective of both the classes clearly signifies that India is somewhere not a balanced country. In some places, it is good, entertaining, and full of opportunities for the rich class, and in some ways, it is very soft for the deprived class, but also somewhere it is harsh for both of them. We also saw that India failed to fulfill the needs and demands of both the classes during the COVID 19 pandemic. Moving forward to the views of Chavi.
Thank you, Neve. Good afternoon, all. Before I start, I apologize for my bad throat. I might not be clear at times and slow, so please forgive me on that. My friends have already discussed about the problems and perspectives of the bright class. But my point is, Who are exactly in this deprived class, and why, even after 70 years of independence, after working of plenty of schemes, NGOs, government facilities provided, why do they exist? According to me, these are the people who are habituated to free fooding and lodging, and they do not want to work hard enough to come out of this class. What I have observed is that these facilities are more often than not taken by those who are not supposed to be a part of the deprived class. Speaking my personal experience, when I had seen people coming in car, van, bikes worth over 1.5k, having good mobile phones, remarkably expensive watches, and taking free ration from government stores, owing a BPA card, will you say that these people are deprived? Now, to present my point, I have one more example of some schools in Rajasthan. So, what happens there is that government has opened the school. It functions nearly good, but the parents in there are not vigilant enough to send their kids to school. Now, moving forward, in the population of about 135 crores, we have only 2 crores taxpayers, the so called Sanchalak of our country. This tax money is used to improve the standard of living of the deprived class. But in last 70 years, why we still have the deprived class? What's the reason for this? Is it because the schemes are not properly on the floor? Or because they don't want to move themselves out of the comfort zone? Because for that they have to work really hard. You know that one earn and feed rest concept. But having said this, we can't blame all because there are people who are actually needy. The world slides, the world goes, and death makes equal the rich and the poor. But until then, the differences exist, and it's a fact that India is a country to owe both the richest man of Asia, that is famed Mr. Mukesh Ambani, and the world's largest slum, Dharavi. The deprived class exists, and we need to work to bring in a change the most needed for their betterment and ultimately for the society. We do have schemes, NGOs running, but we need to make them run good on floor. After owning opulent resources, why is India still developing? To avoid this question, we need to spread awareness among the deprived class about the facilities they are provided with, the rights they owe, and etc. etc. Not only that, the rich class, which is known to hold good amount of resources, also needs to be directed right for progressive growth. But on the other hand, they are ones paying huge amount of tax. So government should make sure that part of their hard-earned money is not going waste and should be used properly for the enhancement of the underdeprived people. Government should provide them with more practical opportunities and make sure they get a fair chance to come at par with the labeled rich class. Though I had more to say, but today my throat is my limitation, so I end our presentation here. Thank you. And that is all.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Group 30. Does anyone have any questions for them? Okay, all right. So I have quite a few comments. So it was again a very interesting topic, mm, and it was in total a kind of analysis of the social situation of our country, if you will. What I could make of it. It was more like how we are seeing what are the resources available and whether or not it is available equally to both the rich and the poor. Um, I really liked how you were going point wise, as in you were picking, you were picking one particular aspect and then talking um, about that aspect, relating it to the rich and the poor. What I thought you could have done differently is, जैसे तुमने पहले you talked about the poor and then you talked about the rich, right? What you could have done is, if you're talking about one aspect, like for example, hunger or starvation or the food thing, then only you could have talked about the poor and then at the same time rich. तो वहाँ पे ज़्यादा comparison वाला, it will give an idea of the comparative analysis of the both, right? How you did that was also the same thing, but then if you had done it this way, वो एक immediacy आता, right? एक it would have
Yes, ma'am. I have done that the comparison in my slides.
हम्म। यस, द comparisons are there. What I was saying is जब तुम कोई भी
Yes,
एक
ma'am.
एक उसको कर रहे थे ना, you could have
Yes,
done
ma'am.
it for, हाँ. Now another thing you could have added is that when you were talking about जैसे हंगर एंड starvation का तुमने बात करा और हेल्थ केयर का बात करा, वहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल दे दो मुझे, जैसे हंगर starvation में ये बोलो कि फमाइन में इतने सारे लोग मारे गए थे. I think even Bengal in the 1800 something, I don't remember the exact date, in 1800 something Bengal में बहुत बहुत नहीं, I think 1900 something में बहुत खराब फमाइन आया था. A lot of people died.
Yes, ma'am, the Bengal famine.
Yes.
Ma'am, I
And
used data that approx 7,000 Indians died a day due to the shortage of food, which is
हाँ.
given by ICMR, Indian Council of Research.
Yes, yes, yes. That too I got it, but I was saying that as with some example. See, whatever comments I'm giving, no, it's not going to cost you marks. I'm just giving what you could have done it differently. Now, when you were talking about healthcare, तुमने एक बार healthcare की बात करी, फिर pandemic was a different category. What you could have done is maybe healthcare के बाद I think education came and then pandemic came. तुम healthcare के बाद directly pandemic के बारे में बात कर सकते थे, and then we could have come to education. Right. And another thing is when we are talking about education and reservation and all of these things, no, I want you all to look up this idea of cultural capital. Is anybody aware of this term, cultural capital?
No, ma'am. I have no idea about it.
Okay, so you can do this thing like take it as a homework or something of that kind. You are anyways at home, so take it as a after class work or something. That you go and look up what is cultural capital and how does that fit in this whole idea of education or resources being available to the rich and the poor, and this idea of reservation, right? Go and look up cultural capital and how cultural capital is different than the money that we have, and how the one with higher or more cultural capital, they are at a more advantaged position than the ones who are less on the cultural capital. It's a very interesting idea, cultural capital का, वो एक बार देखना तुम लोग.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
Kolkata
Yeah,
is the
ma'am. Sure,
cultural
ma'am.
capital of India.
Sorry.
Kolkata is the cultural capital of India.
No, no, I'm not talking. No, it's not capital, not in the sense of the place, but then it's in terms of resources and money.
Okay.
कैपिटल का एक, हाँ, वो भी मीनिंग होता है ना कि इट इज मनी करके.
Yes,
तो
ma'am.
कल्चरल कैपिटल, हाँ, सो ओके, I'll tell you about it. Cultural capital refers to the resources that you have at hand. Like for example, if I'll give a very general example. If I belong to a family of well-educated people, like for example, my grandfather is maybe a PhD, my grandmother is a doctor, my father is an engineer, my mother is a professor, then I will have a better understanding of the educational system. I will have better resources than another of my colleagues or another of my friend whose parents are not that educated. If he or she is the first in their is the first generation in their family who is entering into this whole academia, then he or she might be at a lesser advantage than me. हम दोनों एक ही क्लास से शुरू करेंगे, बट क्योंकि मेरे घर में the mahal is something else altogether. I have an access to resources which is more richer, I would say. It's more, it is richer, it is better than the one who does not have that sort of exposure at home. Right? तो यहाँ पे कैसे आप reservation fit in करते हैं? Like if we talk about the rich people and if we talk about the poor people, of course they have the same like take an example wherein they have the same IQ and they have the same abilities for that matter, if we have any measurement to measure their abilities. But what happens is that the rich one has a better backing apne ghar se than the poor one. The poor one is doing everything on his or her own, but the rich one has a lot of plethora of resources or plethora of sources from which it can get these opportunities, and the rich one has more resources to navigate through. the opportunities at hand. Right, so यहाँ पे हम ये बोलेंगे the richer one has a ज़्यादा cultural capital than the poor one. Right, you're getting the difference between cultural capital and the money. It's not always about the money, but it's about the people around you, the resources around you that you can use to move forward, that you can use to empower and enrich yourself. Got the difference between money and cultural capital?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, so think about
Yes,
this
ma'am.
thing. It'll help you understand this whole reservation system better, and it'll help you give a nuanced understanding of whether or not we should have reservation and this whole controversy around it. Yes, Chavi, you want to say something? I think you raised your hand.
No, 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 ma'am.
Ma'am,
Okay, all
basically, I
right.
was talking about ki reservation. It's okay, but getting admitted to a college should be purely based on merit.
Hmm. Yes, yes, I got
That's
that point.
the point.
I got that point. I just want you all to go and look up this thing so that
Yes, ma'am.
you'll have a nuanced understanding. Now, there was this slogan when you were talking about the education one. There was this slogan. Can you tell it again? I think it was Shubham who said it. Um,
मैम का नेटवर्क इशू है ना?
विमुक्त है
yes, yes. So, what does that mean?
मैम सभी के लिए मतलब सा विद्या विमुक्त मीन्स सभी के लिए मतलब विद्या जरूरी है इट मीन्स
I think it means education enlightens and it sort of brightens something which is dark. As Hmm. It was the slogan of my alma mater. Like I did my master's from University of Hyderabad. This was uska, the slogan. It was written in the logo, which is why it rang a bell. कि अरे मैंने सुना है ये कहीं पे. So overall, it was very engaging. I really like when students talk about these social, political issues that are happening around us that affect us. So it was really, it was very nice that you had put in so much research and you had put up this whole thing. It was good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
थैंक यू
Thank
मैम
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hmm. Okay. The next group 14.
Neha, please share the screen.
Hello, Neha, can you please share the screen presentation?
Is Neha in the meeting?
Yes, yes, please, ma'am.
Okay.
I think she has a network issue.
Okay, then anyone else might share. Then we can start maybe, or we can wait for Neha.
Yes, ma'am, because she has the opening speech.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay, all right.
That's important.
Maybe give her a call and see what is the situation.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
मैम
Yes, Neha.
we need to present or what?
Yes, yes, you need to present. You need to start sharing this PPT.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good morning to one and all present over here. First of all, I would like to thank Pallavi ma'am for giving us this opportunity to present, and also I would like to thank all of my teammates for completing this presentation unitely. Now let's start with our presentation, Media Literacy, the Need of the Hour, with my other teammates Ashish, Devjyoti, Samudranil and Ritankar. So before jumping into the topic, first of all, I would like to explain what does the term media literacy mean. Media literacy is the ability to identify different types of media and understand the messages they are sending. Recognizing our own point of view, saying what we want to say, how to say it, and understanding that our messages have an impact is the key to effective communication. Also, every reader has a perspective, and identifying an author's point of view helps us to appreciate different perspectives. Media literacy steps allows us to learn what a given piece of media is, for what reason it was created, what does the author want us to think about it, is it purely informative or is it trying to change our mind? Is it introducing us to new ideas we have never heard of? Who is this message for? Is it for kids, grown ups, girls, or boys? Is the piece of information faithful? All this is what media literacy means. Now, moving to the next slide, why is media literacy important? To understand why is media literacy important, we need to know in what ways does it have an impact on us. The media sources an average person consumes unconsciously affect their opinions, behaviors, and relationships. Media literacy is important because it will protect us from manipulation and allow us to be informed citizens who make conscious and educated decisions about what they value and trust. We need to understand that media is not the mirror of reality and their content is not always complete, accurate, and unbiased. Also, there is an urgent need to understand the difference between information and opinion, and this is where media literacy works. Used correctly, media literacy holds enormous power to improve human life on this planet. Media, when fulfilling its intended function as the fourth pillar of democracy, can act as a checkpoint for corruption, enable faster and quicker transmission of necessary and useful information, and can become a sane voice in today's fragmented and polarized world. Also, it can be used as a tool to learn about a lot of new ideas, informations, cultures, and different perspectives. So, the purpose of media literacy is to help individuals of all ages to develop the habits of inquiry and skills that they need to be critical thinkers, effective communicators, and active citizens in today's world. Now, I would like to request Debjyoti to continue.
Thank you, Neha. Good afternoon, ma'am, and good afternoon to all my batchmates. I am Devjyoti Gan. I will be speaking about principles of media literacy. Educators use televisions, news, advertising, movies, still images, etc., etc. These principles are generally used by teacher because they help to recognize fake news as using multiple sources, gauging tone and language, questioning numbers and figures, understanding images and the brain, developing multimedia skills, recognizing biases, shaping the media ourselves. Media education is now required in many curriculum across the world. Schools are working hard to help teachers prepare students for changing the industry and have continued access to the right tools for the job. As the digital world develops at what often seems like a daily pace, teachers will need resources to stay abreast to the current trends. Media literacy targets to the student profiles. It helps to access to a broad range of tools with flexible tech skills to seek out and adapt to more habitual critical analysis of media text in any form, and it helps to increase the media production skills grounded in writing fundamental knowledge gathering and curation skills. It also helps it also gives ability to problem solving skills and seek help and take action leveraging media resources responsible self-aware self-expression and interaction with other expanded by media resources. Now, straightforward, coming to the next point, this generally means media do not simply reflect reality. They present production which have specific purposes. The success of this production lies in their apparent naturalness. They don't look like construction, but they are and many different constraints and decisions have gone into why they look like that. A media literate person is always aware of the media text carrying values and have ideological implications. A media literate person does not complain that something is biased. He or she searches out the biases, the assumptions, the values in everything that's made. It all made by people, after all, who interrupt the world according to their own values and assumptions. Most often, the media affirm the world as the status quo, the received wisdom, whatever is the thought by the media makers as the consensus, and they become reinforcers for this status quo as a result. Next slide, please. Now, limitations of employing copyrighted materials in literacy lessons. According to the given points, I would like to explain in media literacy, wish to share curriculum developers should be especially careful to choose illustration from the copyrighted media that are necessary to meet the educational objectives of the lesson, using only what further the educational goal or purpose for which it is being made. Often this may mean using small portion clip or expert rather than an entire work, although sometimes it may be permissible to use more or even all. The curriculum developers should not rely on the fair use when using copyrighted third-party images text to promote their materials for promotional purposes. The permission should be appropriate. In addition, if a teacher or a school has especially agreed license, of course, its terms are likely to be binding, even if they impinge on what would otherwise be considered the fair use. And of course, illustrative materials should be properly attributed wherever possible. Thank you, ma'am. Now I'll be like to call Itanka to carry forward the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Debjyoti. Good afternoon, ma'am, and all of my. So, what do you mean by media censorship? Undoubtedly, mass media influences the health behavior adolescents to a great extent. But censorship cannot protect them from harmful effects. Media show news, information, entertainment as per demand, but they are sometimes biased, not neutrally accurate. Nowadays, new media has come besides TV, newspaper. Children spend more time on them based on violence, crime, video games, drugs, etc. This may affect the new generation. Now, coming to the second point, I would like to explain that according to some media authorities, these problems can be solved by censorship. For example, many organizations such as American Academy of Pediatrics, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Office of Natural Drug Control Policy, UNESCO, European Commission, and European Parliament, and a lot of media organizations such as Center for Media Literacy, Association for Media Literacy, and National Association for Media Literacy Education have strong statements regarding it. I think educational and research activities are essential. Planned educational programs are needed to improve knowledge of the adolescents. It can bring behavioral change and save them from this crisis. Media literacy training is to be executed from more extensively. Now I'll request to Neha to change the slides. Okay, so let's talk about the impact of media literacy on students. In today's world, we are all dealing with a lot of things. We are experiencing health and economic crisis. Many of us are learning and working from home with little support. All of these issues are contributing to another crisis that does not receive as much attention. We are also more dependent on media technologies than ever before. Over the last few months, due to pandemic, we students have all likely been spending even more time in front of screens. For those students whose learning has moved online, that means virtually all of their educational and social needs are being mediated through screens. This is a great opportunity to shift our conversation around screen time from how much we are using screens to how we are using screens, from media safety to media literacy. The rush to move learning online has only exposed the digital divide that persists in regard to access, but also it deeply divides into educational equity. Without media literacy, these divides will continue to increase. Unfortunately, we are failing to meet the challenges to learning that the 21st century demands. On average, teens in the US spend nearly 7.5 hours every day with entertainment media, more time than they spend at school. Think all the advertisement they are exposed to, and all the clickbait and misinformation, and all the drama on social media. All of their attention captured and mined for data. Think also of all the benefits that new media afford us, the skills they help us develop, the relationships and network they allow for, and the many perspectives and voice they amplify. Media have so much power to influence us in both positive and negative ways. We are not critically engaging with media in our classroom, and we are not utilizing media as the powerful tools for learning. Young people especially find it difficult to identify where information comes from online or to distinguish the credible from the fake. Now, coming to the second point, I would like to explain that to become a smart consumer of media, be skeptical. It can be very hard to tell the difference between reliable information and misinformation on the internet. When searching for information online, we should always be aware that what we find might be wrong. Second, slow down. We use the internet to find quick answer, but not all questions can be answered quickly or easily. Many issues are complicated with a variety of opposing options and truth that may or may not lie in the middle. To be a good consumer of online information, we need to read slowly and read the actual article under interesting headings. And third, we can separate facts from opinion by understand that misinformation and the deliberate spread of disinformation, which are many people out there trying to get our attention, and learn how to recognize the difference between objective news and subjective option, and learn how to identify media sources that are more or less reliable or that. And fourth, to create media responsibly, do that things about what you want your social media used to say about you, and consider what you want to achieve and which tools should be best for the job. Keep your personal and professional identities separate. Check security settings regularly and communicate positively and choose quality over quantity. And last but not the least, identify the role of media in our culture by communicating and socializing on social media. It has three important parts: communication, socialization, and change in our life. These parts can both harm and benefit the world. Thank you. Now I am requesting to Neha to continue further.
Media literacy to earn money. Many of the hours people spend with media are with commercial sponsored content and advertisements. So why not to make money through it? There are a variety of subjects on which media is growing more and more diverse every day. Creating different contents, YouTube ads, sponsored promotions, online trading, share markets, Patreons, which is another way to earn money through fundraising services where users give a star money at regular intervals to support the future projects, and in exchange user gets exclusive contents such as behind the scene material, early access to new releases, as well as more exclusive connection to their favorite characters and other businesses and services. There are many ways we can earn money through media. However, the basis of all these is being media literate. Let's continue with the next slide with Ashish.
Thank you, Neha, for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I am Ashish Patnaik, bearing roll number 779. So, let's begin. Digital media is all around us. Nearly every message is created or distributed using digital technology. On a positive note, this means it's now easier than ever for many people to access important information. However, at the same time, the rapid spread of misinformation threatens our democracy. Being able to navigate these media challenges is fundamental to being a well informed member of society. Digital media literacy is not only important on a personal level, but also in the workplace and community. Understanding how people interact with information is essential in many communication careers. Digital media literacy goes beyond digital media and using digital tools. Instead, digital media literacy is the ability to use digital media to understand and interact with the world around you. This means you have the skills to interpret digital media and produce digital content in a way that can benefit society. So, before that, we should ask a few questions to ask ourselves before consuming a digital media. So, who created this? Was it a company? Was it an individual? If so, who? Was it a comedian? Was it an artist? Was it an anonymous source? Why do you think that? Why did they make it? Was it to inform you of something that happened in the world? For example, a news story? Was it to change your mind or behavior, an opinion essay, or a how to? Was it to make you laugh, a funny meme? Was it to get you to buy something, an ad? What do you think of that? Who is the message for? Is it for kids, grown ups, girls, boys, people who share a particular interest? Why do you think like that? What techniques are being used to make this message credible or believable? Does it have statistics from a reputable source? Does it contain quotes from a subject expert? Does it have an authoritative sounding voiceover? Is there direct evidence of the assertions it's making? Why do you think that? What details were left out and why? Is the information balanced with different views or does it present only one side? Do you need more information to fully understand the message? Why do you think that? How did the message make you feel? Do you think others might feel the same way like you felt as you looked upon the digital media? Would everyone feel the same or would certain people disagree with you? Why do you think like that? As kids become more aware of the exposed news and current events, you can apply for digital literacy for watching radio, TV, and online information, and you can filter out what's the thing that you need to know. So why is digital media literacy is important? We came to know about that. So next, moving over to the next slide, we'll know about the fake news and the misinformation spread due to this. So Neha, please change the slide to the next slide. What is fake news? 13 minutes of fake news in Indian media. So fake news is quite common between us. Like we are the users of WhatsApp and we can't skip a day without using that. So because most of the people are related to that and we find our relatives and friends mostly in that and we're mostly vulnerable to fake news like somehow between sometimes during the initial phases of COVID-19 pandemic, how it began in India, some home remedies like by eating tulsi or drinking cow urine, it might seem funny, like it can cure coronavirus, but that's not so. So let's talk about some of the misinformation, like how it was conducted and how it hampered some reputation of people and damaged our reputation. Some people like making money through advertising revenue and how it lures us and how it's quite dangerous for us. Like sometimes they are duped by fake job schemes or fake mobile recharge schemes through forwarded messages they receive. And more recently, during the coronavirus pandemic, credible news was often drowned out by unverified information online. Misinformation related to false cures and conspiracy theories caused panic and anxiety and fear as the virus was spreading. Some people even said that the virus was created by Bill Gates and Bill Gates funded it to create a new world where he will rule economically. People get cheap internet based in tech on their smartphones, but they don't have the necessary education on how to access the veracity of claims made in the messages. So India's first wave of COVID misinformation revolved around the origin, causes, spread, and treatment of the virus. Then it quickly converted to propaganda and disinformation. So we think of as a misinfodemic or the spread of disease facilitated by viral misinformation. Since the India's fake news problem has continued to grow, more than 400 million Indians now use the internet, but the digital literacy and social media regulation have yet to be catch up. This wasn't an isolated case. Child abduction rumors spread by viral WhatsApp messages were connected to at least 17 murders across India in 2018. Rumors of cattle traders and organ harvesters also resulted in violent attacks on innocent people. The rumors eventually inspired a lynch mob that killed 5 migrant workers who were suspected of being kidnappers after they arrived at a village in the state's Dhule district. Providing all students greater access, equity, and ownership of the learning is a purpose of digital media literacy. It's for everyone to understand a media and to interpret the correct information from that. So to be safe from fake news and not to act upon that, it's necessary for us to filter out the information from the misinformation. And for that, we have to watch upon different types of medias, and then we have to have a biased view. Like we have to be quite neutral about. We don't have to be biased, and we have to be neutral about what we want to perceive. The way we perceive the things, the way we think they are. So it's quite necessary for being digital literate. So for the next slide, I want to ask Samudra Neil to continue with the next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. Good afternoon, ma'am, and my fellow batchmates. So, in our society, where information is ubiquitous and terms like post-truth are increasingly becoming a part of our narratives, consumer awareness and understanding in the terms of information per se needs to evolve. While it is not uncommon for information creation and propagation to be laced with certain agendas, the ascent of fake news in our digital world across political, ideological, economic, and social spectrums has also become a matter of concern. Armed with social media as well as other omniscient messaging networks, where large scale information dissemination is not the domain of elites or other media outlets alone, it is impossible to stem the flow of information. In such an environment, it is essential to equip consumers with tools to filter, analyze, and even reject information. This practice must match the timelines of information bombardment, which begins at a young age. Thus, it is imperative for curriculum, pedagogy, and different learning ecosystems to keep up and devise methods to differentiate between fact and fiction. The proliferation of smartphones in India and tablets means that the current generation of students have even more access to information than ever before. So, moving on, I would like to take some examples outside of India which are very prevalent to our times right now. So, a 2016 study conducted by the Stanford History Educational Group found out that although student platforms were proficient on different social media platforms, more than 80% could not distinguish between native advertising, that is sponsored content, and news stories. Simply put, students cannot objectively navigate the barrage of information coming their way. Most of the nations were quick to diagnose this issue and have been honing the response for the last few years. For instance, 2016 onwards, Finland has one of the best public education systems in the world, launched an anti-fake news drive that majorly focused on developing critical thinking and discerning abilities among students. So, as per as a 2016 IEA International Civic and Citizenship Education study, 82% of the teachers in Finland picked promoting students' critical and independent thinking as their most important and top-notch goal. Throughout their different modules developed in collaboration with fact-checking organizations or external experts, Finland has attempted to develop critical thinking skills among students to discounter that disinformation that comes their way. This includes discussing current thematic issues with students, building a culture wherein questioning and cross checking is inculcated, not just as an altitude, but as a practice. So, I would like to move on to the next slide. So concluding our whole presentation, we have come up with some points. So in India, where veracity of information is becoming fast elusive, there is still scant conversation about structured media literacy modules. At school levels, where ICT continues to make inroads of different spheres in the educational space, functional technology skills cannot be conflated with literacy. Since the flow of information easily transcends geographical boundaries, ethical as well as contextual considerations, while consuming content is critical. India's school education system that we all know depends on completion of syllabus and rote learning and is not geared to take on such a dynamic mantle. To begin with this, there is still limited cognition of the magnitude of this problem at the administrative level. In addition, since most of the teachers, emphasis is being most, are not digital natives, familiarity with technology is often a major hurdle. Also, the prevalence of community culture of blindly trusting the printed word in newspapers or spoken word in television or even WhatsApp forwards largely goes unchallenged. In order to change this social conditioning reforms, the reforms must occur at a different levels. Okay. Firstly, the state education departments must recognize the need to incorporate media literacy as an integral part of the syllabus or the curriculum of that particular state or city. In this regard, a central government directive will also be useful. This must be promptly followed up with the setting up of expert committees to prepare modules for teacher trainings in the subject. Such committees must include existing practitioners as well as representatives from the fact checking organizations who have developed mechanisms to verify information. It is important that such committees are state and, if possible, even region specific, so as to ensure relevant and contextual modules for the respective students. The training for the modules must be exhaustive and conducted on an annual and evolving basis. Secondly, parents and immediate elders at least play a pivotal role to our society, to a student's development. It is impossible to instill an analytical culture within students if the converse is prevalent in their homes. Despite the increasing prevalence of internet among students, studies have most out found that families remain their most trustworthy source of information. So, in addition to teacher training, parents must also be sensitized to the possibility of skepticism towards circulated information. Parent teacher meetings, school management, committee events, annual days, sports days, etc., are some of the platforms to initiate discussion about the same. Thirdly, there is a case to be made not for having a formal curriculum in this regard. Since the medium of information flow is almost never consistent, it is essential that any training in this domain keeps pace with whatever is the current information paradigm. For example, it is pointless to devote too much time to teach students how to spot paid content in the newspaper if most of their news consumption is through Instagram or WhatsApp. Instead, it behooves such modules so as to use recent information as possible, both true and false, in the local as well as national as well as international context, while teaching students how to think and analyze. Lastly, while skepticism towards information must be encouraged, care must be taken that it does not morph into cynicism. For all the dangerous implications of unrestricted information flow, the increasing prevalence of different media has greatly democratized the information and increased its scope, access, and diversity. The fear of being duped should not overtake the curiosity to learn or to be informed. In fact, developing a prosperity towards information as a precursor towards analyzing it. It is essential to understand that media literacy does not mean media control. Under no circumstance should students be ever instructed to depend on certain sources of information and avoid the rest. The objective is to instill the ability to make such decisions in an informed manner. In an era where misinformation and disinformation campaigns are already having an impact on our social issues and even our national elections, it is imperative for everyone to equip with tools to assimilate, and analyze information. Thank you, ma'am.
Is it done for everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, it was a
Yes,
very
yes,
interesting
yes.
topic,
Thank you.
and you all did it very good. I really liked, especially I'll start with Samudra analysis and description of his portions. It was very well researched and very nuanced, if you will. Right. So it was in that way. It brings a lot of I would say character to your presentation when you make it so well researched and so well nuanced. You talked about the sacredness of the written and the spoken word. Not everyone understands the idea that is, this how we take the written words and the spoken words for granted. Like if something is said in the news
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
channels, or if something is said in the newspapers or in any book, we just take it that this is a fact, this is truth, but not necessarily that is the thing, right? And that is where the whole idea of media literacy comes in. Now, one thing I would like to ask to all of the people who were a part of this presentation, that when we talk about media literacy, are we talking about it in terms of a specific course that should be introduced in the syllabus of the students, or are we talking about a general awareness, if in which even the people who are outside the educational system, even they will also get some enlightenment? Which is it?
Yes, ma'am. In
It's
my
Ma'am, it's
different.
presentation,
general
What
awareness.
is the subject?
ma'am,
As a
ma'am,
general awareness, everyone should be aware about this.
Yes.
How to
Okay.
filter out the information, how to be safe from misinformation.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it was like a
Aware of
general
fake
awareness.
news.
Yes.
guys,
Yes,
It
guys,
ma'am.
was for all age groups.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
there we
okay,
go, guys.
okay, all right. So
I told in my presentation that a particular curriculum cannot be instilled because information is not static by any means.
yes.
That's the
Huh,
reason why it should be dynamic in nature.
hmm,
Just like we have SUVW classes in our schools,
hmm,
we can inculcate that kind of classes in
hmm,
our
hmm.
particular curriculum.
Like that I understood. What I was asking you, जैसे कि ठीक है हमने बच्चों को media literacy दे दी. What about the parents? Like that is what I was trying to get at. That how would you bring this older generation of people into the purview of media literacy? How would you make it work for them? What should be the source, और ऐसा होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, कैसे करेंगे, क्या करेंगे हम? That is what I was asking.
Ma'am, usually
Yes,
we
yes.
see some kind of advertisements on the TV, like Amitabh Bachchan comes like, "Don't believe in rumors of the
Hmm,
COVID-19,"
hmm,
and we can also see that how the fraud happens We
mm,
have about the stocks. SEBI has also issued some
mm,
advertisements like
mm,
"Don't believe on the calls provided on SMS, so that you may lose
mm,
your entire money." So like that,
mm,
many of the advertisers also do their part. But as a
mm,
student, as a child of our parents, we can also make them aware about this in
mm,
our individual level. That's
mm.
all that we can do at our individual level.
Good, good.
Ma'am, this study generally gives
Mm,
a refined, processed information in our hand.
mm, mm.
We must
Yes.
be sure about it.
Mm,
Very
mm,
much sure.
mm.
Thank you.
Okay, that is a very good defense of your whole presentation. Okay, the last question is when we talk about critical engagement with the media, critical thinking, which is at the core of media literacy, what is it that we are looking at? जैसे मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा कि something is subjective news or objective news, or how will I differentiate the fact from opinion? अगर मुझे पता ही नहीं है कि सीन क्या है, तो मैं कैसे उसको differentiate करूंगी?
As I told, to check the information by personal means,
Hmm.
to check
Hmm.
by our own, so that we must be more sure about that what is wrong, what is right.
Okay, so to check to refer to other sources. तो ये
Yes,
बोल
ma'am.
रहे हो right? Okay,
To
okay.
see
Ma'am,
from
I can
many
say,
other places, is it
ma'am,
correct or not?
ma'am, a
Hmm.
fact is a statement that can be proven true or false, but an
Hmm.
opinion is an expression of a person's feeling that cannot be proven. So we can
Very good.
filter out the fact, and we can also judge that
Hmm.
opinions can be based on facts or emotions, and
Hmm.
sometimes they're mean to deliberately mislead others. So we
Hmm.
can filter out the thing like which are some of the kind of things like the news which are biased and unbiased, and if
Hmm.
we seem to find it like a fact, then we can go with that.
Very good, Ashish. That is what I wanted to listen from you all. That when we talk about critical thinking or critical engagement, we are necessarily looking for logic, reason, rationality behind the news. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that it is
Yes, ma'am.
a
I
sort
have
of
also mentioned one line in limitations
hmm,
in material media literacy. We used to share
hmm,
curriculum developers should be especially careful to choose the illustration from the copyrighted media.
hmm, hmm.
That copyrighted media part.
Okay, okay, all right. Overall, I really liked the whole presentation, and more than that, I really liked your defense of your BPT. It was very good, very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
all right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. One fact check for Group 13. I had written it, but I somehow skipped. I could not say. Group 13, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes.
in the conclusion wala slide mein, I think someone said ki Mukesh Ambani is the richest man in Asia. As of now, like only yesterday
With
only.
the Adani.
Adani,
Uh,
Gautam Adani.
Yes.
I wanted to point that out, but then it somehow skipped my mind. Adani is now the richest man in Asia. So
Yes.
that is one little thing.
Yes,
Overall, it
I'm
was.
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. How would you like keep a track of it? इतना भी नहीं. It's not a very बहुत बड़ा news that you should have known. It's fine. Okay, with this we come to an end of the presentation. It has been a very good experience. I was really intrigued and interested when Pallavi ma'am told that you have to evaluate some of the presentations, because I really like interacting with students and discussing about stuff beyond their curriculum, if you will. I wish I was better, like health wise, so that we could have had more discussions and engagement regarding the beautiful topics that had done your presentations on. But having said that, the experience that I had was very good. You all have worked really hard, and both structure wise, both information wise, both delivery. Like when it even comes to delivery, you all did beautifully. So I would like to congratulate all of you, and thank you so much. I had a very good time spending this whole
Thank you,
experience
ma'am.
with you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I'll take the attendance and then we'll wrap.
Ma'am, can you share mark with us?
I'll share it with Pallavi ma'am. I don't know if I'm allowed to share it with you. Like if I'm supposed to do it with you.
Okay, ma'am.
I'll share it with her.
Okay, ma'am.
I am very lenient when it comes to marking, so don't worry. It's
Thank
I
you.
always believe that more than the marks,
Thank
it's the
you, ma'am.
yes, it's the classroom engagement that matters. It's your contribution that matters. So everyone focus on that. ज़्यादा. ठीक है? Okay, so Ajay,
Yes, ma'am.
Amish,
Yes, ma'am.
Amlan,
Present, ma'am.
Nirud,
Present, ma'am.
Ankit Sinha,
Present, ma'am.
Ankit Anurag,
Present, ma'am.